Welcome to another episode of Heavy Metal Detecting Passion. Today, we will going to travel through history with our short history stories related to our treasure finds. Enjoy the video. It's 1889. The World Fair has just started in Paris, and we all know what was most famous about the Eiffel Tower. By the way, it looks like a great metal detecting bait, right? Being a trademark for Paris for more than 130 years, Eiffel Tower collected many interesting stories in his past. As we all know, he was planned to be demolished 10 years after, but they gave him some new purposes such as meteorological lab, radio tower, which helped French army to intercept radio signals in World War One, and maybe saved Paris. But let's start from the beginning. Although tower carries the name by his creator, Gustav Eiffel, originally, Eiffel didn't design it. The tower was designed by his worker, the designer Maurice Coquelin, and this is his first sketch. In August of 1944, as the Nazis were losing control of occupied Paris, Adolf Hitler commanded his generals to level the city, and plans were drawn up to mine the Eiffel Tower with explosives. Thankfully, Allied troops swooped in before the order could be carried out. On the Eiffel Tower, you can find a champagne bar and the post office. Do you know that Eiffel Tower moves? The massive iron structure is wind resistant and will sway during a storm. But the wind isn't the only thing that can make the enormous tower move, though. The heat of the sun causes the iron to expand, making the tower grow a few centimeters during the summer months. Joseph II, the Holy Roman Emperor. He ruled for 25 years in late 1700s. Here on a map, you can see the borders of Habsburg monarchy in his time. And as you can see, he ruled many countries, such as Prussia and Bohemia in that time, Austria, Hungary, Slovenia, pieces of Netherlands, Denmark also. Joseph traveled a lot, visiting almost every corner of his country and neighboring countries as well, maintaining good relations with neighboring rulers. It is recorded that he traveled a distance equal to the circumference of the planet Earth in his horse-drawn carriage. He traveled under the name of Count Falkenstein in order to hide himself from people, which was a little bit easier at that time, unlike today. During these travels, Joseph saw many problems among the people, so he introduced many reforms, of one of which was the Edict of Tolerance. An Edict of Tolerance is a declaration that states that members of given religion will not suffer religious persecution for engaging in their traditional practices, which until then was not a practice in Habsburg monarchy, where they forbid other religions than Christianity, including forbidding ownership of real estate, houses, land, or education for members of another religion. The introduction of this declaration into practice took some time due to, for example, the situation in Bohemia, where the Catholic leadership, wanting to preserve its union, printed this edict only in German language, knowing that members of other religions could neither read nor speak German. I cannot see here because I left my glasses at home. But you'll see it now. In 1914, unfortunately, is the most famous year for the worst possible event in recent history. And we already know that is the beginning of the First World War, or how they call it, the Great War, which started with the murder of Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo. But let's move on to some beauteous topics, like also in 1914, the Panama Canal was opened. Until then, the biggest possible technological undertaking, which shortened the route by almost 15,000 kilometers. It is about 18 kilometers long, and ships need 1 day to pass it. So, did you know that already in 1914 the first high altitude rocket was patented, which include the concept of liquid propellant rocket engine that employed gasoline and liquid nitro oxide by his inventor Robert Goddard. Although the first cowbell was found in ancient China, dated somewhere 5,000 years ago, in Europe, first mentions of cowbell was written in the 14th century. In Deutsches Wörterbuch, or German dictionary, which is the largest and most comprehensive dictionary of the German language in existence. And it was written by the Grimm brothers. And this is the original manuscript of the book. And we must mention that the Grimm brothers are best known for writing the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. Frederick William IV became the King of Prussia in 1840. To please the people, he made major strides in first year, such as easing press censorship, which will still be handy for someone to remember today, right? Releasing political prisoners in order to please the opposition parties. Interesting, right? And he began building romantic buildings, which was top in that years, and which the famous is the Cologne Cathedral, which still adorns the center of Cologne today. And he even donated an island with a castle in his ownership called Fraueninsel, which was a natural habitat for many animals, to the Berlin Zoo, which, with his help, opened its doors a few years later as the first modern zoo in Europe. With all these details, in 1848, the European Spring came, a revolution that first broke out in Palermo in Sicily and spread to all major European cities due to the dissatisfaction of the people on a wider spectrum, due to agrarian reforms, due to a feudal system, high unemployment, and even due to awakening of nationalist feelings in some countries under foreign rule. In Prussia, the liberals came to power with the revolution, and King Frederick managed to stay on the throne with a political spin, but he refused the title Emperor of the Germans that the liberals wanted to give him, considering that they were not a legit government and that with a few more spins they would be overthrown by him. In later years, King Frederick William IV becomes mentally ill, although still in power, so details of the last years of his reign are taken with grains of salt. Trench art is any decorative item made by soldiers, prisoners of war, or civilians, where the manufacture is directly linked to an army conflict or its consequences. It became popular in the First World War, where soldiers, out of necessity or desperation, made the first lighters from bullet casings. In the Second World War, trench art spread to other, let's call them souvenirs, as we can see in these pictures. And our found lighter should originally share a timeline with these ones. It's good that soldiers made their own lighters, right? A key holder, not a key holder, the part of the key, a giant key. So, you think wireless data transfer is a modern thing? You're mistaken. At the end of year 1901, Guglielmo Marconi receives the first transatlantic radio signal sent from England to St. John's in Newfoundland, and it was the letter S in Morse code. Before this day, the prospect of immediate wireless communication over such a distance bordered on fantasy. Think of late 19th century communication landscape, dominated by the telegraph's electric sparks, a technology that revolutionized messaging but still clung to physical wires. For ocean-spanning conversations, messages were ferried by steamships, coursing over the large swaths of water for days, if not for weeks. The ocean was not just a physical barrier, but a temporary chasm, isolating continents by virtue of time. Guglielmo Marconi was an Italian inventor who glimpsed the future through the lens of electromagnetic waves. He entered a world connected by invisible threads that skipped across the Earth's curvature. Of course, the path to this historical moment was paved with many experiments, researches, and failures. Lead seals have been used since the time of Roman Empire, and they were pushed into wider use by Byzantine Empire. Before the lead seal, the most widespread use was in wax seals, like you can see it over here, which were used by the wealthy people because it was simple and more affordable. For purpose of important notifications, letters, or as a signature. Byzants took the advantage of the softness of the material and began to put not only decoration, but also trademarks or destination marks on seals, and in some cases to also use gold for very valuable things. In 19th century, the use of lead seals was withdrawn, and in 1978, lead as a material was banned in everyday life and withdrawn from many everyday products at the time due to its harmful effects on health. Antonio Priuli, 94th Venetian Doge. He was a soldier and a sailor. He had no more and no less than 14 children, which resulted in the need for Priuli to become heavily in debt. So the choice for Venetian Doge suited him quite well. He became the Doge of Venice after succeeding his predecessor, Niccolo Donato, who held the position of Doge for only 35 days. At the time of his election, it was widely believed that the Spanish had landed mercenaries on Venetian territory and infiltrated in Venetian military, and that the Spanish fleet was poised to take Venice. Priuli's election began a brutal process of ferreting out individuals suspected of plotting against Venice. Hundreds were arrested, with or without cause, with attention specially focused on foreign soldiers and sailors. The manhunt led to the arrest of many actual plotters, but also of many innocent victims, which was a huge problem. The hysteria ended at the beginning of 1623, and Venetian government even issued an open apology for the bad and wrong things they did in the past few years. And just as things were about to start returning to normal, a few weeks later, the 30 Years' War began. Antonio Priuli died in August of 1623. Alvise Giovanni Mocenigo. He was born in 1701. Sometimes he was enumerated as Alvise IV Mocenigo. He was the 118th Doge of Venice. He was famous by his restrictions the privileges of the clergy, and in consequences came into bitter conflict with Pope Clement XIII. He tried to spur on the economy, and he made an important commercial agreements with Tripoli, Tunisia, Morocco, the Russian Empire, and with America. He died on 31st December of 1778. In the year of 193 AD, Septimus Severus became the first and only Roman emperor of African origin. That year is also called the Year of Five Emperors, in which Septimus came to power, killing the current emperor Didius Julianus. Although he came to power as a Roman emperor, the emperor was ruled by two more self-proclaimed emperors, Gaius Niger in the far east of the Roman Empire and Claudius Albinus in the far west, in Britain and today Spain. Septimius consolidates his position on the throne by killing them both. Septimius remained famous for several important moves. He relied a lot on an army in which he gained trust, so he increased their salary by 30%, and he even paid 250 dinars to each soldier who joined the army, thereby greatly increasing all military strength, which resulted in the expansion of the borders of the Roman Empire by 5 million square kilometers, returning them to almost the largest area of the Roman Empire, that was once made by Emperor Trajan. He was also the first Roman emperor to keep some military units inside Italy itself as a reserve, which turned out to be a good tactical move. Unfortunately, he left his mark in the economic field because military expenditures increased, so he had to increase taxes and reduce the share of silver in coins from 82 to 54%, while physically reducing them by as much as 30%, which is also visible on our coin. After Septimus' death, he is succeeded by the sons of Caracal and Geta.
Thank you again, guys, for your support, and we hope you enjoyed our short historical stories, and that at least for a moment we turn your everyday thoughts in a different direction into history or some fantasy. Follow our channel for new adventures, and be well. Stay positive, folks.